This is the 8th in a series of short sessions, or presentations, designed to teach you how to have mental and emotional. A big part of being mentally and emotionally fit is to develop truly effective emotional management. You can do that, or develop that, by developing 4 easy-to-learn cognitive life skills. In session 4, we talked about how to develop USA, or UOA, unconditional self-acceptance, and unconditional other acceptance. In sessions 5, 6, and 7, we talked about how to develop what's called an internal locus of control. Developing and becoming proficient in any of these 4 skills may require a great deal of change on some people's part in the way they think and the way they look at things. Change can be difficult. We discussed this some in session 3, but it bears repeating. To understand why change is so hard and what needs to be done to make healthy change, it helps to understand some simple facts about brain physiology. First, everything we think, feel, say, and do is really a product of connections or pathways made between nerve cells in our brain. If we rehearse or practice a thought, feeling, or action, we're basically wearing down a specific pathway in our brain. If we walked across a field over and over again, using the same path, we'd wear down the grass and eventually create a rut in that field. That's basically what happens when we rehearse and practice a thought, feeling, or action. We create proverbial ruts in our brain. If we came up to a field and wanted to cross it in a hurry and there was an obvious, well-worn, rutted path, we'd probably take it to the exclusion of the other ways we could go. So it is with the brain as well. When we have to make a choice as to what we think, feel, say, or do, we are more likely to take the rutted paths we created in our brains. Creating ruts makes it automatic for people to think, feel, say, and do things certain ways. The fact that this happens in the brain is a double-edged sword. If it leads to rational and functional thought, feeling, or action, that's a good thing, because we certainly wouldn't want to have to relearn helpful thoughts, feelings, or actions each and every time a new situation came up. However, if the rut leads to an irrational, dysfunctional thought, feeling, or action, it does present a problem and makes change for the better hard. Dr. Ellis called these well-rutted thoughts or beliefs automatic irrational beliefs. The problem is that once these connections between nerve cells get made, they can't be broken, short of some trauma to the brain. Once ruts get created, they can't be eliminated. You can only make new ones. That's why people can quit smoking for years, and if they have a cigarette or 2 later, end up smoking the same number of packs a day that they did before. It's why people often say, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. It's why people can slip back into their old ways of thinking, feeling, and saying and doing things, no matter how long it's been since they thought, felt, said, or did those things in the past. To change, we need to first make a new connection to think, feel, say, and do things differently. Then we need to practice, rehearse that new thought, feeling, or action until it becomes a new rut itself, and can hopefully compete with our old ruts that lead to irrational, dysfunctional thoughts, feelings, and actions. However, it's helpful to remember that no matter how much practice and rehearsal we do to create ruts for thinking, feeling, saying, and doing things differently and better, we can still slip back into our old ruts at any time. The only difference is that we learn to catch ourselves sooner and sooner and are able to choose another path. It's very much like walking down the wrong path in a forest and suddenly realizing it, turning around, going back to the fork in the trail, and then heading down the other path, or the right path, or the better path. Here's an example of how you could apply this to developing an internal locus of control. You could do a log of things you say when you get angry, and then write 3 new, semantically correct and precise statements from the list you were given below it. For example, you got mad at some point in the day and told someone, "You're such an idiot." You write that down. Then you could write, "It's my choice how I look at things. No one upsets me, I upset myself. And what they said or did was just an event." Or any of the other statements on the list right below what you said when you were. You could do a similar thing to learn to not take unnecessary responsibility for how others make themselves feel. You could log things others say when they get unnecessarily angry with you. Then, using similar statements but with different pronouns, you could write 3 semantically correct and precise statements below what they said. For example, someone else got mad at you and said, "You're such a jerk." You write that down and then write 3 things like, "I don't upset them, they upset themselves. It's their choice how they want to look at things, and I'm not responsible for how they feel they are." Or any of the other statements from the list below what they said when they got angry at you. This would make the initial connection between the feeling of anger and new ways of thinking or talking. It's like coaching or counseling yourself, reminding yourself of your cognitive choices and how feelings really come about. The more practice you do, the more times you repeat a particular statement in response to your anger, the more rutted it would become. And the better it would be able to compete with your old rutted ways of looking at things and talking about your. The bad news in all this is that you can slip back into your old ruts at any point in time and end up thinking, feeling, saying, and doing what you thought, felt, said, or did before. The good news in all this is that you can change the way you think, feel, say, and do things using the same process by which you came to think, feel, say, and do things that made your life worse. The simple process of rehearsal and practice. You can't get rid of your old ruts, but you can create new ones, and with practice and rehearsal, they can compete with and even win out over your old ones. That concludes our 8th session. In session 9, we'll talk about how to recognize irrational thinking in yourself and others, and why that's important. In session 10, we'll talk about how to correct irrational thinking. In session 11, we'll teach you a step-by-step approach to potentially troublesome life events, an approach that will allow you to get into the best possible cognitive and emotional place and then make the best possible behavioral or lifestyle choice for yourself or others. You can read more about developing an internal locus of control or how to change, to make change easier, at www.itsjustanevent.com. Or you can read about how to develop an internal locus of control or to make change easier for yourself and others in the book entitled It's Just an Event, It's Your Choice How You Want to Feel by Ray Mathis, which is available at Amazon.com, itsjustanevent.com, and PubishAmerica.com online bookstore.